You know, the gaming industry is incredibly weird, and I'm going to explain why. This is the only place where you can go, make one of the greatest games ever made, sell it, and literally put everybody else to shame because the technology that you had at the time surpassed everybody else, even with a small person team. Then turn right around, have the sequel to that game release, and then attach it to Always Online DRM, and then become the most hated company back in 2003. Yes, that's real. In fact, during that time, everybody hated Valve. We all did, if you're old enough. Back then, nobody even wanted to be anywhere close to having always online checks or even having to get online in the first place to play a video game. We were happy with icons on a desktop and our After Dark screensavers. But you see, Valve didn't just stop there. No, what they did instead was they took all the feedback, information, and even then all the criticism and applied it properly to their storefront. And that's why you have Steam where it is today. One of the main bastions besides GOG as a huge way of pro-consumer behavior, and even then being classified as a monopoly when they're not even doing anything monopolistic in the platform or even in the space at all. In fact, it's gotten so bad that we've seen so many other people try to emulate Steam and fail on a consistent basis. And now we're also seeing other major console manufacturers like Xbox go back to their roots and try to reclaim their PC gaming throne. And it's not just Xbox that's being involved in something like this. We've also seen PlayStation as well begin to make and even expand upon their PC app, which literally gives you access to trophy support and even online friends as well. And I can bet my sweet Bippy that at some point you might even see PlayStation put on a native PC app for their storefront and their games. But I think the funniest part isn't just the fact that Xbox is going back to their roots on what they really wanted to do with Microsoft gaming, that PlayStation is moving into the actual space. I think the funniest part is in fact Epic Games, where for years, probably about the last 6 years or so, they have been on an actual warpath with Steam specifically, and are going around and trying to take the actual behemoth down. But instead of doing it the right way and focusing on the customer and consumer themselves first, Epic decided to do what console manufacturers do: create massive walled gardens on an open platform, go through and mark for exclusivity, and then realize, why isn't anybody here except for Fortnite? And maybe the occasional free game every now and then. And I think the funniest part has to be watching Tim Sweeney have generational crash outs all over Twitter, getting community noted on a consistent basis, simply because he wants to have Steam cut their entire revenue source by 18% to match Epic's as well. It's almost like they were doing the exact opposite of what Steam did, not realizing the past 20 years is exactly why Steam is the way it is right now, taking in proper accountability for the kind of platform users in fact want to have. But it turns out that things may in fact be changing for Epic Games, and we could be possibly seeing an actual competitor to Steam in the marketplace. But it's not just going to be Epic. It looks like Xbox is going to join the fight as well. According to Windows Central Gaming on Twitter, Jez Corden on Xbox's PC-style future. In our latest opinion piece, Jez Corden argues that the next Xbox is shaping up to be more like a PC than ever, and that could be both a major win and a major risk. More power and flexibility are great, but not if Windows-style issues follow the console into its next generation. We dive into what that means for game performance, stability, and the long-term health of the Xbox platform. And this is where things are going to get really wild. We've seen Xbox themselves literally look at the actual marketplace and say, people are in fact really moving over to PC. And in fact, they've been seeing massive growth on PC Game Pass specifically. Their focus has been on that space for a very long time. In fact, that focus is so large that when they increased the price of Game Pass overall, PC Game Pass itself did get a price increase, but not a dramatic one, and got all the benefits of everybody else paying $30 a month for a much smaller fee every single time. And this is where things are in fact going. But it's not just for Game Pass specifically. We're also looking at the fact that SteamOS is going to be a big player in the game. Microsoft recently announced they will no longer be supporting Windows 10, and to get into Windows 11, you require TPM Secure Boot on your motherboard, forcing people to in fact upgrade. There are workarounds though, but they are quite annoying to get through, and even then, some features may not even work on your PC because of it, and some games may not work on your PC as well. Here comes SteamOS, a Linux-based operating system to walk in and take a massive chunk out of that Windows user base that doesn't want to go ahead and upgrade or can't afford to upgrade, and affordability is going to be a big factor coming up as well. And let's also not forget that Linux has been massively growing in the enterprise server side, a space where Microsoft normally dominates. And if you have a company like Valve that has been trusted for quite some time with so many other things, especially with information, with security, and with updates, well, that could put a big damper on Microsoft's plans to become more of an actual platform across every single device, rather than just trying to be a simple operating system or in fact a console. So Microsoft isn't doing this because they lost the console war. They're doing this because they're seeing the forest from the trees. They're noticing that Steam's move into this space is going to disrupt what they're trying to do. And even then, this could be a major factor for them to not only capture the PC gaming audience, combine that into the actual console gaming audience, and still keep their AI Copilot system alive while they're going ahead and trying to push forward with everything else that they have in plan. But let's see what Jez Corden had to say in the article and go from there. Jez Corden's article says this: last week, my colleague Zach Bowden reported that Microsoft is essentially setting up a task force to fix Windows 11 after allowing its quality to slip in the name of pursuing AI. I have it on good authority that Xbox is a big part of that effort. One of the central reasons anyone even still uses Windows outside of their jobs revolves around almost entirely around gaming. Most casual computing scenarios have slipped away to mobile phones, leaving Windows PC gaming as the primary leisurely use case for millions of home users. But it's no secret that Windows hasn't exactly been great at servicing some of its most active users. A strong example of this materialized only last week when an update to Windows 11 broke the Xbox Ally. Power settings and other ASUS Xbox Ally systems were actively becoming blocked by Windows' own security layers, preventing users from adjusting key features of the device. That's not exactly an ideal scenario, to be in particular if you've just spent $1,000 on an Xbox Ally X. And I can definitely see Jez Corden's perspective on this. I, in fact, also do have an Xbox Ally X, and I did a review on it too. If you haven't caught it, check it out right over here after this video. The thing is, though, when I reviewed this device, my recommendation was, if you're going to buy something, get a Steam Deck instead. Even though this is a great system, it's incredibly powerful, it does really well, I feel like Windows itself is a massive damper on the device specifically, and even as a user experience overall. When I found it easier to have just Steam boot up instead of the Windows full screen experience and have Steam be my actual de facto use case, that really exposed a lot of things on what Windows is in fact doing wrong with users and even gamers specifically. And it isn't even just the Xbox Ally and the Ally X having issues with Windows updates. There were massive concerns recently with Windows all across the board. 30% of the Windows code written by AI having to go around and not update Windows 11 because your system wouldn't even shut down at all. And even then, every time you have to update your PC and you say update and shut down, it does the opposite. It'll update and restart. Things have not been going well for Windows overall, especially with the way things have been going with their AI implementation, and also forcing Copilot into basically every Windows aspect, causing people to in fact get so frustrated that they're moving to Linux as well. That's where things are going to get really weird. What Microsoft is doing right now, without fixing these issues, is basically pushing people into Steam's open arms, and that's going to be a bigger problem overall, because when the Steam machine actually releases, this could be the de facto way for people to in fact game on PC, avoiding Windows altogether. altogether, avoiding Game Pass altogether, avoiding the Xbox PC app altogether, simply pulling everybody away from that space and then moving into a direction where it is completely open source, and even then feeling far more trust simply because they've been burned so many times by either Phil Spencer or even Satya Nadella or Xbox and Microsoft themselves. If you look at anybody else in gaming, the one person they're going to say that they trust the most is probably going to be, it's because that company that he runs has been doing everything they can to then focus on the customer experience. And that's basically why things are the way they are. And until Microsoft learns that, they basically won't go anywhere with this. But there's still more though. So let's keep going. Jez Corden continues his article by saying this, quote, "I know from speaking to Xbox engineers behind the scenes how much passion and drive there is to deliver real results for Windows gamers on PC. For me, it's just about whether or not CEO Satya Nadella is truly committed to staying the course. Fixing these problems is not an overnight thing by any stretch of the imagination and will require real graft. Windows' biggest strengths are also some of its biggest weaknesses. Its unprecedented levels of compatibility give it decades upon decades of legacy software and games to tap into. On the downside, it seems to require surgical precision to keep updated and stable, and that's not ideal for console users who expect a very focused experience that, quote, just works out of the box." And I think that's going to be the biggest thing overall. The Xbox Magnus may in fact be a PC, but even then, if Xbox and Microsoft don't work together to make that experience ideal, then it's going to be a problem for everyone. In my opinion, what Xbox and Microsoft have to do is basically everything that's going on for that next console or PC hybrid has to and should be applied to in fact every regular PC outright now. If you can provide a good, clean experience, a good, clean UI, remove the clutter and all the telemetry data and issues that Windows 11 has and provides a better experience for the user, like SteamOS does with the Steam Deck, then you're going to basically win over every single gamer and every single user on the actual open platform and PC space, thereby creating a massive amount of monthly active users. This is what needs to happen. Microsoft has to look at things from the actual customer perspective and the usability of that customer perspective, rather than trying to inflate numbers of actual AI usage of Copilot or Cortana or whatever else they want to shove down your throat every single time, even with Clippy. And this could be one of the beginning things that causes Steam to really make some drastic changes. If you're looking at the fact that Microsoft is a multi-trillion-dollar corporation, has the funds and the bankroll to even possibly compete with what Valve does, you could be seeing a real competitor with Steam, and even then, SteamOS, moving directly into the platform wars. Because not only is Valve dealing with multiple lawsuits, not only from the lawsuit that Tim Sweeney decided to vocally back on Twitter the other day, but also the one from the Rothschilds, and even at the same time dealing with payment processors and merchant banks as well. It almost feels like this is some sort of like coordinated effort to try and take Steam down. But the thing is, it isn't just Microsoft that Steam has to look out for. It's also apparently Epic Games. Because IGN tweeted this out yesterday saying this, quote, "Our goal isn't to dance on top of Steam's grave. How Epic plans to convince PC gamers to buy their games from the Epic Games Store instead." You know, I'm going to go ahead and have to press X to doubt on that one. After the massive crashouts that we saw with Tim Sweeney the past couple of days and the lawsuits that are going around, we can clearly see that Epic is in fact trying to do exactly that, dance on Valve and Steam's grave. The problem though is the way they're doing it hasn't made a whole lot of sense, and this is where this entire video comes into play. We're seeing Microsoft on one side try to approach it from an operating system perspective, and even then from an actual hardware perspective as well. While on the opposite side, Valve is now also dealing with Epic Games, not only backing up lawsuits online, but also trying to go after and remove games from the platform, and even then try to coerce developers from not publishing their games on Steam too. The thing is, we've seen what happens. Even when a game developer puts their game on the Epic Games Store for free, it turns out that their sales increase on Steam instead. And that's the problem that people don't understand. The issue isn't the fact that games are exclusive on the Epic Games Store, or that games are locked away, or that Epic self-publishes. They seem to always be putting profits and the boardroom above the consumer experience. And that's going to be where they fail. Because it turns out with an interview with IGN, where the vice president of Epic Games, Steve Allison, decided to say a few choice words. Let's take a look and see what he said. With IGN asking this, it'd be great to get some insight on the long-term play here. You're up against Steam, which is a huge competitor, very difficult to shift, not just in terms of the stats, but the mindset. And I've always heard, not just anecdotally, but from Epic people, that Epic Game Store is not profitable. Is the goal to grow bigger than Steam? Is that actually feasible? Are you profitable? Can you even be profitable in this venture? With Steve Allison saying this, so there's a couple of ways of looking at it. When you talk about Steam, you talk about everything, including their first-party games. If you talk about the Epic Game Store, first-party plus third-party, and you just credit the store with 12% of the revenue that comes from Epic's first-party games, which isn't how we do accounting, but we sometimes do these views internally. The store is past break-even and reasonably marginally profitable. With Steve Allison finally saying this, third party is where we're investing. We got to do all this work. Remember, also, it's like 60% of our audience uses both. 40% doesn't. There's a bunch of that audience on Steam that will never turn, but we continue to get a cohort of players that are discovering PC gaming for the first time. They're shifting from console. We're going to have different feature sets, different opportunity around the multi-platform store. It's all about establishing the consistent performance of market spending, like 25 to 30% now. And if we blow past that, we'll be super stoked. But once we get there, we'll be in good shape. There's a couple of things there that I really want to point out. One of the first things is, if you've noticed, Steve Allison talks about developers, he talks about shares, and he talks about users as in market share. What he does not talk about, though, is the actual user interface and what people and their expectations are when they're using a storefront like Epic themselves. That's really what these people are completely ignoring, what Microsoft has been ignoring for so very long and are finally taking steps to fix those issues on Windows, and what Epic continues to ignore even now. They're focusing on third-party relationships, things like exclusivity on an open platform, things like self-publishing. So you're seeing all of these things just contradict each other on a consistent basis. And if Steve Allison wants to go ahead and capture 30% of the market share on PC gaming, they're going to have to do a lot more than trying to entice people with exclusivity, because clearly on this space, it doesn't work. And I think what he's banking on is exactly what he said at the end, how console gamers are moving towards PC, and how this also ties directly with Xbox as well and their next PC hybrid console coming into the space. On my ROG Ally X, I can have access to the Epic Game Store. I can log in, get a free game, log right back out, and then load up Steam. Or if I'm someone that never understood why Steam is so great, I would simply sit in the Epic Game Store over and over again. And that's really what these guys are betting on. They're betting that the next set of consoles are more PC-like, and those people who are used to things like exclusivity for consoles and games being locked away to ecosystems will feel the exact same way when they move towards PC. And you can see how this could be a massive issue for the actual platform of PC gaming overall. No longer being open, now having to have specific games locked to specific storefronts simply because that company wanted to outspend somebody else. And then using the console-style ecosystem on an open platform to lock away games from other players. I really feel like Steve Allison is shortchanging how many people will in fact not move from Steam to Epic, regardless of how much Fortnite they'd have on that platform. And even though when you look at games like Arc Raiders, that entire Battle Royale economy and the entire Fortnite economy may not in fact have much longer, because so many other games are still to this day pulling away players from that place and that game. And even with all that being said, it looks like Epic may in fact finally be taking some proper steps, because according to Polygon, Epic Games may in fact be fixing their storefront and app altogether. With the article saying, quote, "We're ripping the guts out of the Epic Games launcher entirely," well, mostly entirely, and replacing it, Vice President and General Manager of Epic Games Store Steve Allison told Polygon in an interview tied to the EGS 2025 year in review. That work started in October. It's pretty far along now. The launcher experience might use a lot of system resources for some people. It may load on a delay that doesn't feel good, especially when you're a dual user that uses Steam or another store that you don't experience that on, he said, noting that 60% of EGS users are also Steam users. We're well aware of it. You know, personally, I like the Steve Allison guy a lot more than Tim Sweeney. I'm just going to be upfront about it. If they've been working on this since October, a couple of things have crossed my mind. Number one, you're about 5 to 6 years too late already. You're taking too long. This should have been done from the very beginning. All these features, all these issues, the fact that you have massive load times, these are problems that should have been fixed from its inception, not waiting so many years to have these issues resolved. And I think that's where Epic is going to have a big problem. People are saying, Alex, but you waited for Steam 20 years. Sure, Steam was the first one. They had to go through and fix those issues over that time frame. We're not talking about a small team. We're talking about Epic motherfucking Games. They own Unreal Engine. They license that engine out to every single major publisher and developer. They own Fortnite. They've got the money. They've got the resources. They're specifically choosing to not do anything about it simply because Steam is now pushing into other territories. They're pushing into the hardware space, into the operating system space, and they're doing it all while keeping everything open source. And that's the part that terrifies these conglomerates, these companies. The fact that Steam is saying, hey, we don't got to charge anybody. We're just going to give it to you. And that's exactly why everybody benefits from Valve and Steam in the first place. So even though they're trying to compete for you, there's many ways and many levers that they can pull to manipulate you as a user to be pulled away from Steam. And I guarantee you that's what they're going to try and do. Epic Games want 30% market share. Well, they're clearly going to have to earn it. And one of the ways that they've done it, which we've seen already, has been exclusivity. And you can bet your bottom dollar, you thought I was going to say the other one now, didn't you? That they may even pull those other levers as well, forcing users into that storefront or that place simply because they've already done it before. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys have to say about this in the comments section down below. And speaking about what you have to say, let's look at the comment of the day from yesterday's video. With Upbeat Black Ops 1506 saying this: you can buy studios, you can buy game devs, you can buy IPs, you can't buy customer loyalty or trust. Upbeat, you are absolutely correct. And I think that's what these companies like Microsoft and even Epic are failing to understand. That trust has to be earned, and Valve earned it over 20 plus years. It's going to be real hard for them to rip it away from people. And I think that's where they're making their fatal mistake. But hey, if you want to see more of this kind of content though, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, and even live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 107K. Oh, by the way, if you haven't caught it yet, on the second channel, the Oh No It's Alex Gaming channel, I did an essay video about Morrowind. You should definitely check it out. The link to that channel is in the description down below. And also, I'm kind of proud of that video, so give it a watch. Let me know what you think and if I should make more kind of content like that over there as well. But if you want even more stuff like Discord access and even emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member on this channel. It's as low as $1. Look, if you don't want to spend the buck, don't even sweat it. Just show up every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, live right here on this channel as I wear a banana suit and get insulted by about 800 people with TTS. Trust me, it's a hell of a show. You don't want to miss it. We go over gaming news, we talk about fanboys, we talk about the gaming industry, and I just keep getting made fun of the entire time. 8:45 p.m. Eastern, Saturday nights, right here on the channel. I guarantee you're gonna laugh. With all that being said though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you gooners next time. Peace!